Join me every month for the inspiration to find your finish line. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Find Your Finish Line. I'm Mike Riley, and I hope you're having a fantastic summer, a strong training season, racing season, especially up here in the Northern Hemisphere. I know down under, every time I mention the summer weather, it's winter down there, but you guys get to always crank us when you're in the summer and it's winter here. So it goes both ways. And this podcast is not only about finding your finish line at a race or an event, but also in life. We talk to people who have overcome a lot of things in their lives, whether they're racing, getting through life, jumping those hurdles, and hopefully they can inspire you to do much better on a daily basis. Well, she's been an amazing professional, my guest on the podcast today, that in our sport and an icon that always seems to break barriers. She's a 3-time XTERRA World Champion, 2-time multi-sport World Champion, a bunch of middle distance tri wins, including 5 70.3 wins. And at the young age of 50 in 2023, she was the oldest professional to ever qualify for Kona. And then she goes just over 10 hours. Welcome to the podcast, Melanie McQuaid. It's so great to have you.
Thank you so much for having me on your podcast, Mike. It's been a pleasure, and thank you for all the calls across the line over the years.
Well, you're still up in Victoria, correct?
I am.
Well, it's funny because a little later on, I was going to ask you or just make a comment. I would always go to a race, and this was, 10 years ago, 11 years ago, and I'd look at the pro list. I'd see Melanie's name on it. Okay, she's 42 years old, racing as a pro. And then a few years later, we'd be at another IRONMAN. There's Melanie again, 45 years old, 40. And I kept thinking, oh my gosh, she's just going to race pro until she's 90. My God.
So you never know.
Yeah, I know. I just always love that. Well, my first question always on Find Your Finish Line to any guest is, what kind of workout did you get in today? Or do you have one planned?
Yeah, so Thursday's generally a pretty chill day. I swim with a group of younger ITU athletes. So this morning I did 4,300 meters, long course, mostly just aerobic swimming.
Is that a like a Thursday, what we call like an active recovery, have fun, let's go out and just get wet day?
Not quite. It's more like Thursday, keep it around zone 2, but keep moving. So like I was swimming anywhere from like 120 to 125 off a 140 leave time in meters. So that's like my heart rate was very low, but we weren't just floating.
Right. But you weren't killing yourself either. So that's a good thing.
No, exactly.
So your career, Melanie, had a start of, I really don't know how you got introduced, because you were the off-road, the mountain biking and all that. How did you get introduced to sport?
So it depends on what we define as the sport. So I was definitely a professional cyclist first. And I started with kind of headhunted in university to the Canada Games, which is like a developmental major games. And I went and raced a bunch of road cycling that year. But my primary passion was mountain biking. And so the year after that, my headhunting year, I made the national team. And then I started racing the World Cup circuit for mountain biking. So I had that career for about 7 years. I raced a lot in Europe, like all over the world on my mountain bike. But I didn't make the Olympic team in 2000. And so that year I actually knew I wasn't going to the Olympics. And so I switched to road cycling that year, thinking, okay, well, this is going to be the new me. And I made the national team for road that year. And I went to the World Championships for road. And when I was on the start line in France, it was a very awkward start where just shortly after the start, we had to make a hard left turn and the entire field went down. And so I was on the grid pretty far back because I wasn't the first choice to the national team that year. And there's a huge crash and I was out of the race I can't remember how long, but less than 5 minutes into the race, I'm not in the race anymore.
Oh
And
my
so that
God.
left a little, a taste in my mouth about what, what cycling was like. Not only was I not really in control of like where I was on the start line or where my choice was, it's like unpredictable. And luckily that year I was invited by Team Unlimited, and they organized the mountain bike stage race called the Hawaii Mountain Tour. And they
Yeah.
actually also organized the World Cup finals on the island of Oahu. And so we had gone as a national team to those races. And so it was actually Team Unlimited that introduced me to the opportunities in triathlon through the sport of XTERRA, which they created. And they were, their intention was to bring the short course triathletes, the long course
Right.
triathletes, and the mountain bikers all together on the island of Maui to duke it out and to see who could be the fastest over a course that was a 1,500-meter swim. Who knows how long the mountain bike was. They wanted it to last like around like an hour and a half to 2 hours, and then a 10K trail run. And so they invited the Canadian national team in 2000 to come, and they provided us with hotels and said, good luck, try this out. And so I flew from basically France home to Hawaii to go do this race. I didn't really prepare for it in 2000. I just thought, well, what's the worst thing that can happen? I'm going to the island of Maui in the late fall, and I really surprised myself coming second. Right. And to be fair, like I have a little bit of a swim background from high school. Like obviously I could mountain bike race well. And honestly, I wasn't a terrible runner. Like I was actually pretty good because our training for mountain biking included a lot of trail running in the wintertime. And so we did these epic, like what we called run hikes, and they would be like up downhill, like 2-hour runs that we would do frequently in the winter. So although I wasn't necessarily fit for running because I just come from road worlds, I did get run down with like a ginormous lead. So I wasn't in great shape for running.
Who ran you down? Who won that race?
Kirsten Boila, a woman from Germany who had won, I think, the XTERRA series that year. So the
That
girl
year?
who
And
was the best at
who
XTERRA.
was it? Melanie, was it mom and dad that showed you a bike, or was it a friend when you were young?
It's a boyfriend. I
Okay.
didn't pick up, like I'm from the generation where we like I did this and that. So I ran a bit of track in high school. I did a bit of swimming. I played badminton. Like I'm the generation that didn't really specialize in anything. And honestly, I was like more like a science nerd in school. So I definitely really enjoyed being fit. And so I did a lot of stuff, but I was not a specialist at anything. And really, like when I first went to university, I thought I was going to run track, and I had done some track, but it was a boyfriend who like basically took me out with road shoes onto like the gnarly Victoria trails, and I fell down a lot and was covered in blood all the time. And I just thought, okay, this is the coolest sport ever. So I was a late start. I didn't get started until in my 20s.
Oh wow, wow. That boyfriend's not still in your life, is he?
No, he's not. No, he's not. But I have a lot to be thankful for because
Yeah.
he introduced me to an entirely different world.
Well, you got in that world, especially the race in Hawaii, the disciplines of especially the mountain bike in the middle of it all, and Xterra comes along, Team Unlimited, and you find yourself racing against people like Leslie Patterson and others, and you ended up your first win was what,
2001.
2001, that far back. Okay. And
Yep.
when you won that race, did you think your career at that time, well, I'm going to do this always. I don't need to do anything else. Obviously you started doing Ironman thing. Was that your direction at that time? You think this is it for me. This is what I'm going to do.
Yeah. So I think so. So Leslie's younger than me. So she came quite a bit later, honestly. So like
Yeah,
if
that's
we
true.
talk about 2000 and 2001, Leslie's not there yet. She's a baby. And like if you look at 2001 and like some of the decision making that went into me moving into triathlon, I was actually signed to a road team that year. And and this is like just I like understanding what it was like for female athletes at that point in time. I think some of this context is important. So I was signed to a team in 2001. I went to Redlands. I came top 20 in Redlands, and the field was like 150 riders. And the director sportif and, well, essentially the coach for this team was Genevieve Johnson's, you know, coach.
Mm-hmm.
And that relationship between Johnson and Andre Abu was extremely abusive, and he was just the worst human ever to have to be a female athlete being bossed around by. And so I was almost 30 years old at that time, and I went to this road race. I'm signed. I have a UCI contract with this team, and he's throwing radios at us. He's like yelling at us, telling us we're all fat. And it was just a disaster. It was a very like unhappy start to my road career, right? So I did that at the beginning of the year. And so during that time, I guess he just didn't, I was just like, can we just be professional? Is kind of what I asked of him. And as a result of that, he essentially like held me hostage in this road contract and wouldn't bring me to any races. He like wanted to ruin my career because I like demanded respect as a female. So anyways, like if you fast forward, this guy's been banned from the sport. It was all came out with Johnson and her doping and all the rest of it. But I was on the first iteration of that team. And as a result of being held hostage in this contract, they had to pay me, but he wouldn't let me go to races. And so because he wouldn't let me go to road races, I could only go to triathlon races. And so that is why I ended up in XTERRA, is because I couldn't race. I had a UCI contract that he wouldn't let me race under. And I like, so, but it's all for the best. I did report him to the UCI to like have absolutely nobody do anything about it until like 10 years later. But for me, I had a road contract that paid for my start in XTERRA. So all's well that ends well, but that's how it started. And so the other thing about that is like, okay, this is what I was dealing with on the road side. XTERRA and triathlon was the first time I'd ever seen an opportunity for women to make the same amount of money as men. So that was like mind blowing. The amount of money I won for second at XTERRA in 2000 was probably more money than I ever made in my entire mountain bike career. So for me, it was like, why am I doing this in cycling, right? I just had no idea why I would even continue with that. And then, Redlands was basically tipped me right over the edge. And then also there was that self-determination aspect of triathlon that I think that some athletes don't appreciate how amazing it is to actually have the opportunity to like choose your races, go to those races, and like earn a living based on how you do at those races. Like that for me, coming from the like national team system and like cycling organization that wasn't really like that. It changed my life to do that. So I think I have first off, I have so much to thank Team Unlimited for in terms of like teaching me to be a professional athlete, giving me an opportunity to be a professional athlete, and then also like laying the groundwork. Like if you do the work and you do well and you understand the business of sports, you can actually like have this incredible professional athlete life. And that really wasn't an opportunity for female cyclists in too many forms
at that time. And you mentioned the word groundwork, and that's what I was thinking about when you were telling the story and having radios thrown at you. Mentally I'm thinking, how'd you keep going? But that's why you're an icon in the sport. You were part of a foundation that wasn't good, but that was changed. And do you see yourself today, or you talk to other young women coming up into the sport and saying, you don't want to say you don't know how lucky you have it, but to appreciate what they do have?
I think the main message that I always have for these young athletes is that if you actually believe in yourself, it doesn't matter like about any of this stuff that goes on around you. When Like, so whatever anybody was going to tell me back then, okay, oh, it's your fault. Like, he did this because you did something, or whatever, you're just not good enough, or whatever. Like, when people say that to you, like, as long as you can, like, not personalize that, and you just believe in your own talent or work ethic or journey or like reasoning, all of that, like, as long as you have that inside you, it really doesn't matter what goes on around you. And so I just try to instill that, like simplify all this stuff. For me, it was like more direct, like terrible manners in the sport. For like this generation, a lot of it is like ethereal noise from social media or comparison, or like just their own thoughts based on a lot of that they have to deal with. And so really all this stuff, like being successful, or being your own version of success. And I think that's a really important point. Just comes down to you believing that you can do it.
And you're the old adage, your actions speak louder than words. And you've been an action person, action athlete all your life. And it hit me. I go, I don't know what Melanie, do you have races of your own on the schedule this year?
I do.
Because I go, wait a minute, I should have looked up what's Mel going to race this year. She's probably doing 3 Ironmans or something. So what do you? Because you're so full.
I like to race Ironman in the fall. It cools down a little. I like to train in the summer.
So
yeah, no, I think I have races for myself, but definitely like my motivation and like approach to races is different from when I like raced XTERRA, or when I was doing more of the half stuff. And I find that, like, I think everything that I do right now is more just to potentially prove a point, right? So I definitely have been yelling from the rooftops, like how being 40 is not old. Now for 12 years. And I think that the longer that I can maintain my own performance, the more I can show that aging is not like relative to the number of years that you have on Earth. Like that most of what is that reduces your performance as you get older really has nothing to do with the number, and more to do with like what has happened over those years. And so I think that if you can do the right things to mitigate some of the negative effects of those things that can happen by like having the opportunity to live longer on Earth, your performance can be maintained, if not improved. And so to a certain point, I'm running an experiment. We'll see how long that experiment can continue. I'm at 52 now, and we'll see what happens at that point. But Melanie, who wanted to be the best XTERRA racer in the world and like just win as many of those races as possible, is a totally different athlete than Melanie, who's trying to prove that she can race as a 52-year-old professional. Like, they're just two different people.
Yeah, faster after 40, now faster after 50. Heck, Melanie, it's just faster, It's just getting out there and doing it. I love that.
I mean, literally, I ran my fastest marathon in an Ironman at 50.
That is just insane.
So it's like there is the opportunity to do that.
Right. And others are, who am I thinking? McKeely Jones still racing. I mean, there's others out there who are in their late 40s, mid 40s, late 40s, 50s. And it's not that their times are like when they were in their 30s, but you look at their time and go, what are you kidding me? She just beat everybody in the 40 to 45 age group,
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
So where are you going? Come on, give me some, where are you going? Where are you going to race at?
Well, I think, for me, I'm on the list for Chattanooga and Arizona. Those are two races that I really like. So I'm going to do those two races. And I mean, outside of that, like a lot of my racing is generally for this experiment, right? To see how fast I can go. So I'll start the next race when I think I'm going to run a good marathon. And other than that, like a lot of what I do with racing is showing people what's possible. So outside of that, I have a group of athletes that I work with, and I'm trying to like create a little bit more visibility for some of the things that I'm doing, by not racing all the time, and maybe working with people one-on-one and doing consultations and trying to share some of that philosophy with people on my social media channels, so I can show them that, you know, some of the things that you were doing when you were younger to get better maybe aren't the primary things you need to be doing now
Mm-hmm.
to be strong. Like, and I think that that's important as a coach and as an athlete, is to really distill down, like, what are the most important things to have in place in order to achieve that performance. And I think for a lot of people, they don't know what that is.
They don't exactly. Yeah, we'll talk about the MelRad and your coaching, but I just want to get your assessment, if you can, quickly. You talked earlier about, you know, the pros today have so many other factors in their lives that they're, whether it's social media or this or that, and it's just different. That's just the way it is. But what do you think of some of our women pros today and some of the incredible times that they've been setting and the races that they've been? My goodness, sometimes I look and I go, oh my gosh, she came in third place, but she broke the course record. I mean, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Well, what do you think
Yeah.
of that? What do you think of the women pro today and pros and what they're doing?
Yeah, well, I think what you're seeing is like, there's been advancements in three areas mainly that are responsible for a lot of this. And I'd say number one is coaching and training science. Like,
Mm-hmm.
number one, like understanding the assignment really well. So like, I know Laura Phillip and both Kat Matthews both have had really excellent access to really smart coaching, and also, and beyond that, also just the biomechanics. I know Laura in particular spends a lot of time working on how she runs, not just like
Mm-hmm.
what she does in running, and those aspects of training are key to being like your running economy, and like how, like basically how fast you can run economically, like trickles down to every distance that you do, and that's affecting women's running, and running in the men's too. Everybody just is smarter about how they train. Number two is the shoes, obviously, like the shoes, and finding the right shoe for you, and how you train in these shoes, meaning how, like, how much more you can train. Like, shoes are really, I think we almost need a different generation. Like, we need to do the before the super shoes and the after the super shoes, and like compare records to both times, because it's not the same. Like, the shoes make such an insane difference that we can't compare the past generation to this one. So that's like a fact.
I know.
And then the third thing is like a lot of the advancements in aerodynamics. So like
Mm-hmm.
we're doing a really good job at figuring out how to go really fast while remaining really comfortable. And so that's just like totally changing how athletes sit on their bike, carry their nutrition, like all of it. And so everybody's just going faster as a result. Now, the other thing about that is that there's like more athletes coming in that have like more of an ITU background. So they have
Right.
a better base. So we have larger groups of fast people. So that also makes everybody go faster, you know, because riding, like, even though it's a legal distance, you know, in those really, in the really big and competitive races, the packs are also larger. And that wasn't the case in the day of like
Mm-hmm.
Paula and whatever. She'd just ride off. Sometimes I guess they might have some men around them, but like, I think that these really fast moving packs of really fast athletes pushing each other together is making everybody faster.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, it's interesting. I saw a picture, seen pictures lately of Mark Allen, aerodynamic on a bike back in the day, and Paula and a few others, and I'd go, "Oh my gosh, they look so uncomfortable.
Yes,
How'd they come off the bike and like run the way they did?" Because today,
totally.
if an athlete looked like that, you go, "What are you doing?"
No,
But
it's true.
it was just incredible how aerodynamics is changing the game on that. You're right
Yes,
about that. Were you,
absolutely.
Melanie? Were you coached most of your career? Did you have someone, or did you have a few different coaches?
Now, I have a lot of coaches that I can thank for helping me with my education, not just about myself, but about sport in general. But
Mm-hmm.
a lot of my journey in coaching came out of necessity. So, like when I came into to triathlon in 2001, I actually was invited to train with the National Triathlon Center in Victoria. And I spent the year, with Simon Whitfield and all the best ITU athletes. I actually dabbled in some ITU stuff that year and trained as a triathlete. And that ended up being my worst year ever of XTERRA. I couldn't ride my bike. And so early on, the nature of ITU was more like a swim run race, and the bike really wasn't as important. Whereas for XTERRA, the bike really was a cornerstone of, your success. And so right away, I recognized that I was going to have to figure out how to coach myself for this sport, because the coaches just didn't even really understand the sport yet. And
Right.
so as you go down the road and you start to look at some of the coaches that started coaching really great athletes in XTERRA, they tended to come out of XTERRA themselves. So that's like Neil Henderson actually raced XTERRA for a while before he became the cycling coach that he is, and working with the likes of Flora Duffy, right? So he just understood the assignment because he did the sport. And so for me, because there was nobody that really coached the sport, I just figured it out. And so I was I have a science background. I have a chem biochem degree. I'm very analytical and potentially borderline obsessive compulsive. And so I just like I describe all of my career, I have really detailed logs, and I would try something and I would test it, try it, retest it, and just figured out what would work to be good at that sport. So that was my XTERRA career. And then when I switched in 2012 to Ironman, the problem I had, even though I actually worked with some coaches, was those coaches would say to me, okay, you're going to be 40. And so now you need to train less and rest more. And
Really?
I kept trying to communicate that actually, no, I feel actually pretty good. And this is not enough training. And I think I need to do more to be good at this. And so we reached another inflection point in my career where what I was experiencing was not congruent with what the current knowledge was. And so if you go back kind of to the beginning of this conversation of what I would counsel a young athlete, if you believe you know what's going on, just follow that. And so that's another reason why I kind of ended up coaching myself through my whole Ironman career. I would work with coaches, but it was never, I think ultimately I always had a hand in what was going on, because, I think until you show people that you know what you're talking about, and okay, I don't think I need to modify this just because I'm 40 years old. They don't know. And so I think that me being 40 back then, I was ancient. Everybody thought I should retire. And that so things have changed a lot in 12 years. We have lots of athletes over 40 that are continuing the sport. Our whole Olympic team for marathoning is in their mid 40s. So, but that back then you were honestly, I think everybody just didn't understand what I was up to. I didn't do my first Ironman until I was 42. And the whole discussion about me doing my first Ironman was more about the fact that I was 42 than I was doing my first Ironman.
Where was your first Ironman?
Ironman Canada, 2015.
15? Oh my gosh. Were you up on were you being interviewed then? And that's what, on the pro panel?
Maybe. I think so.
Yeah, I think I was there. I do remember having a couple discussions, or you're on a panel or talking to you about, so Melanie, you're 44 years old now, and that's the way but nowadays we don't look at it that way, because if a 35-year-old is going to discount that 41-year-old, they could get beat.
Yeah.
I mean,
underestimation is actually a very valuable weapon when you can use it. So yeah. I think that the biggest thing though is not sabotaging your own self. And I certainly did that a lot of the time. I think when I was 39, I had a really tough season because I kept thinking, oh my God, I'm turning 40 next year. My career is going to be over, because that's what society is telling me. And so for that whole year, I think I was just up in my head about a lot of stuff. And I won Oceanside that year, but then I kind of didn't continue performing as well. No, maybe I won Oceanside the year before that. Yeah, I think that was it. So all of 2012, like I was sort of just, I won Oceanside and did nothing else, thinking that, okay, this is my last year of, viable professional career. And then I turned 40 and like nothing really happened, right? I was still just as good. It didn't really matter. And so I'd say that when I was like 42, I like won 370.3s or something like that. I basically just was like, okay, carrying on.
Yeah.
But until somebody does that, you don't know, right? And that's kind of the point of like continuing to race, is like until somebody just kind of pushes the boundaries a little bit, the pen is too small. And so I don't think that people are going to keep racing in their 50s. I don't even know why I'm still like, it's great for me. I'm having fun. I'm actually keeping up. Like but I don't think that 50 is like legitimately when you're going to be at your best in your career, obviously. But I certainly think that 40 is. And
Yeah,
so, so that's sort of the point.
You just said it. You said, I'm having fun. I'm enjoying it. Obviously, you're passionate about it. Who cares if you're 20, 50, or 80? That's the reason right there. So with all the coaching, the self-coaching you did, is that why coaching is now so dear to you and why you started MelRad Coaching?
Well, I just think that it's something that I understand really well, and I do really enjoy the relationships that I have with people. I think like I did one of those. It's like kind of like a Myers-Briggs thing, and my personality type is such that like I kind of like to do my own thing. I don't really love being told what to do,
Mm-hmm.
and I like to make a difference. And like even though what I'm doing is like a small and personal way, like I feel like a lot of what I try to teach people in the time that we spend together working on their like athletic goals, they end up having habits and a mindset that affects like how they handle other things in their life. And I think that making that small difference for a small number of people is meaningful for me. And I like having my small little thing. I don't have a big fan. I'm not a CEO of a triathlon empire. And it just makes me happy. And so I like I think that is a really valuable thing to like be able to spend the time you have doing something that you really like doing, and keeping the stress relatively low.
So you're coaching athletes of all age groups, though, aren't you?
I do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
Okay.
I mean, obviously I think because of that my highest visibility is in my own racing, obviously,
Yeah.
right? I don't
Yeah.
have a big squad, so it's not like you see MelRad jerseys everywhere. So you see me. And so because most people see me racing, I think I'm influencing the 40 to 60 category quite a bit. And so I think I skew to like really fast 40 to 50-year-old women. I have some younger, really fast women. And then I have some older athletes that aren't that fast that actually just want to push themselves really hard. So I have some very motivated older athletes. And then I have a lot of people in XTERRA that are more like my consultation program, where we meet once every 8 weeks and they kind of do their own thing. Because XTERRA people tend to be a little bit less interested in the minutia of training.
Mm-hmm.
They kind of want a general direction. And so they're a little more laid back about their training. And so I coach quite a few XTERRA people in that way as well. And then I really had fun this year. I do a lot of like run mechanics clinics. I do like more one-on-one technical stuff, and I coach an athleticism class online on Mondays, where I try to help people move better, because I think that's a big part of my coaching philosophy, is like a lot of the technical aspects of triathlon that is harder to coach online and better in like a coached camp sort of environment.
Listening to everything you do, it's like 24/7. What do you do besides athletics to relax? Is there anything else in
I
Melanie
don't
McQuaid's
relax.
life? Yeah, I know.
I don't relax. Have you just met me? I don't relax. No, I have a pug, and I hike in the woods with my dog. I putter in the garden. But no, I don't relax. Like, no, I have to be doing something at all times, and I fully blame my father for that, because that's exactly what he was like.
That's what okay. Okay.
Yeah, no, if anybody, like, there's no sitting down time.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, I have visions too of you finishing races. Some visions of you coming in and you're just looking like the best. Oh my gosh, that was such a good race. Like you nailed it, or it was really a good race. And others where I thought you were dying. Like you're coming in, I'm going, oh my God, Melanie,
Are
she
we
must have
talking
had,
about Wisconsin?
yeah, it was kind of, I go, "Oh, I think it was a bad day.
Well, can
She
you
must,
blame me? Was that Wisconsin? Ironman Wisconsin, what was that, 2023 or 2?
22.
That was one of the most challenging days of my
The
life. We were
longest.
moving so slowly. It was, I mean, I did Ironman Canada in, like, I think what was that? That was 2015, my first Ironman. It poured rain for like the entire time, and it wasn't as hard as Wisconsin, because
Wisconsin.
Wisconsin was so cold. It rained for like whatever,
Seven,
25 hours straight.
yeah,
It was
yeah,
brutal.
yeah. And as a matter of fact, I remember at one point I was out at Verona and I had a full wet gear and everything. And the athletes, you're coming by and I'm going, oh my God, my underwear are wet. Everything. What am I going to do? It was just the worst. And then I go, what is it? November? It was
It
freezing.
was horrible. Yeah, no,
But
that was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. I felt really bad right from the start of the race. And normally like a rainy, cold race like that is right in my wheelhouse. But I don't know, I woke up and I just was in the wrong body and I just couldn't really do anything all day. But like every race that's like that, it's a race of attrition. And so I was like, I don't care. I can, like, I
I can
can
do it. Yeah,
suffer.
yeah, yeah.
So
Melanie,
that's what I did. And it
who
was terrible.
who are your mentors? You talked about your father and you're like him, but anybody else, any athletes or anybody in your life you kind of looked up to and said, "Whoa, I respect that. I really that person's doing it right."
It's hard to pinpoint. I think one thing that it's more that I'm just a student in life. Like I really like learning things. So like every single pro that I've met, I like do my best to learn as much as I can
Mm.
from them. So I learned a lot from being around Simon Whitfield. I learned a lot being around like Brent McMahon. Like I watched Allison Sider and Leslie Tomlinson race into their 40s as mountain bike racers and then be essentially like pushed out of the sport because they were a generation before me, and that it's not allowed to
Yeah,
race at
yeah.
40 in that generation. So I really like learned a lot from them. And then like every coach that I've either had a chance to like be coached by, because I've been in and out of the National Triathlon Center. I was like in and out of the National Cycling Center. I've tried to like foster a lot of relationships with coaches in Ironman now. So I'm like good buddies with Dave Tilbury Davis and like the Dave,
Mhm.
and so just having those friendships and colleagues in the sport, whether it's David or if it's I learned a lot from Kelly Guest and Cliff English, and so there's just people that helped me to learn. And outside of the people that helped me to learn, there's also like mentorship opportunities that I went to, like the Altus did a really great job in
Mm.
doing a lot of coach development. And that gave me a chance to learn from another sport because they primarily coach run sprinters. And so it's really cool as a triathlon coach to go and see how like I think that probably 100-meter running is probably one of the most technically advanced, and their protocol for bringing these athletes to like a certain shape and style and technique of running is like leaps and bounds again ahead of what we're doing in triathlon. So just to see how they approach it was like a pretty amazing learning opportunity for me. And so for me, it's less like admiration of other people. It's like this curiosity to like learn from whatever it is, whether it's a book, whether it's a person, whether it's a mentorship, whether it's a program. Like I am pretty voracious or a study. Like I love the whole concept of like how much access to information we have from universities and stuff like that now because of all these
Right.
studies that are available on the
Right.
internet. But that, like, just being a voracious consumer of information.
Well, I will tell you, I believe wholeheartedly that everybody you came in contact learned a lot from you too. So that, even when you talk about Simon and the others, they're probably going, Melanie, you know what she did?
Yeah, probably. Like, wait, in question marks, maybe.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, because I've been pretty unafraid to like try things different. So, and I think that's why I'm where I am now. It's like I've been unafraid to like follow an intuition or just to like throw out the playbook and try something totally different. And
Right.
that, like, I think that's actually like something that athletes that work with me can attest to, is that when sometimes the things are crazy, but sometimes they work.
We have so many age group athletes that are, just came into the sport, obviously, and some come in when they're 40 or 50, some come in when they're 20 or 30. But to our age groupers out there, Melanie, what kind of advice would you give them, general advice would you give them to get them through the rest of their training season or racing season?
Well, it's the same advice I give to the youngsters, is that if you have to believe in yourself and you have to believe in what you're doing. So that's number one. I think it was Henry Ford that says, if you think you're going to be successful or you think not, you're right. Right. And so like, there's a lot of science that proves that your mental state affects your cellular function. So it's scientifically proven that if you believe you're going to be successful, you will be. So if you don't, then you need help with that. So that's number one. And then like outside of that, I think that whether you're a beginner, so beginners very often have an easier time of this than like really experienced athletes that have like smaller margins of error and like loftier goals. I think it's really important for this to be fun. So like if you're an age grouper, most likely this is your hobby, right? Some people, like, it's an important hobby and they're very passionate about it, but it's your hobby. So like the consequences of failure at your hobby are fairly low, right? But for some age groupers that have this hobby, when they like, have a hiccup or run into some, setback, it becomes like catastrophic. But really the consequences of having some failure in your hobby are very low, and keeping that perspective so that you like enjoy the highs and the lows of it allows you to be a lot more like mentally resilient to some of the setbacks that are inevitably going to be happening, because it doesn't matter what level you're at, it's going to go like this. Like everybody knows you're going to have like good and bad days, and you're going to have good and bad months and good and bad years, right? Like that's part of it. But the whole point of this is you've like chosen this hobby that keeps you really healthy, gives you something to like motivate you to like improve your health. And the benefits of this are like being extremely active is very healthy for longevity in terms of aging. And so there's no real downside. Even if you have a bad race, like there's no downside to like pursuing this hobby for a long time. And you don't have to be good at it to still reap all these benefits in terms of aging and experiences and like seeing places or whatever. So I think like making sure that you have some of the goals that are on your list, like when you're heading into race week, include like the experiences, like what's going to be fun about it, like the more like the life benefit versus the outcome of that individual day, because there's just so much good that's going to come out of it, whether you're on the podium or not.
Well, that's said very well. I love that analogy of a hobby, because it's not like losing your job or
No.
somebody in your family getting sick. It's not like that. It's a hobby.
Yeah.
My last question always on Find Your Finish Line is, it comes out of the Baja 1000 down here from San Diego. I've raced with friends that race that thing 1,000 miles in this truck, and afterwards they get together and they tri-table race where they reminisce about the event or another event. I call this tri-table racing. So reminisce with us quickly about an event or something that happened during an event that just comes to your mind.
Oh,
Besides
Right.
Wisconsin. We already
What's
went
that?
over that. Besides Wisconsin, we already went over
Yeah,
that.
we already covered Wisconsin. Okay, so here's like a fun XTERRA story.
Good,
Well, it's
good.
actually not XTERRA. This is my first time going to the ITU World Championships in Spain. So it's the inaugural cross triathlon World Championships, and I traveled with all these girls to Spain, like middle of nowhere, this place called Extremadura, to do this race. And when I arrived, my bike didn't arrive, right? And so I had no bike, and I arrived like a week out. So we go, and I'm like running and checking out the course and doing swims and thinking, oh, it's going to come. And this is before, like, well, frankly, nobody at the airport spoke. There's no internet tracing. There's no air tags, right? This is like 1,000. This is dinosaur times. And it's Spain. So they just, like, still to this day, Spain doesn't care if they wash your luggage. And so no one's in a rush. I'm like on Google Translate on my laptop trying to talk to the person who owned the Airbnb to ask them to call the airport, which only spoke Spanish, to like try and find out what was happening. Nothing was happening. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. By Thursday, I rode Emma Gerard's bike, and she's like 5 inches shorter than me. So I'm like pedaling around on this like bear on a tricycle thing. And I was like, okay, well, this isn't going to happen. But if it does, like I found an age grouper whose bike I could borrow, right? Because I was like, I didn't have a bike. There's no bike shops anywhere. We're in the mountains. It's like Nowhereville.
Jeez.
And then it turns out my bike didn't arrive. And so it's race morning. I've organized this bike to ride. This age group athlete like rode around on it. It's a mud bath. So it's covered in mud and like half destroyed. There's no brakes. There's no water at the venue to wash the bike. So I just like wheel this bike into transition, put my cap on, off we go. I'm going to ride this bike. And I won the race. I was like
Really?
so angry. Like I was so angry so I raced entirely on like anger and frustration. And so I win the first world. It's like awesome. And like podiums and we're all covered in mud and whatever. I try my best to clean up this bike and hand it back. I'm sorry, your bike is just annihilated by doing this race twice today. And then we're like in the car and I'm happy. I won this race. We roll up. As we roll up to the condo, there's the airline arriving with my bike.
No way.
So my bike arrived just in time for me to take it back to Canada.
You know, the moral of that story, you may not have won that race on your own bike.
Who knows? Who knows?
We'll never know. At least you won it on the mutter.
But that really speaks to the community in XTERRA. Like everybody's really helpful, and you know, like it's a wonder. Like off-road racing is a wonderful sport, and it also gives you an opportunity to like manage your focus really well because it's you against the course first and your competitors later. So I just love the sport. I'm retired from it now because I kind of did everything in that, and I have to choose a horse to ride now, and it's going to be an Ironman one. But I recommend everybody try that off-road racing. It's really fun.
Yeah. Well, Melanie, this has been a pure pleasure. You're an inspiration. You motivate just by your actions, and it was always my honor and pleasure to bring you into the finish line. And I hope I don't hope. I know there's going to be a lot more finish lines in your future coming your way. So I can't wait to see
maybe
your
not a
process.
lot more Ironman finish lines, but there's
I didn't say that. I said finish lines. So
yeah.
Thank you again.
I can see at least one more.
Okay, good. That's good enough. And then maybe one more after that. I could just
maybe one more after. It's pretty addictive. You know?
I know how your mind works. You know, you're just
yeah.
But thank you again, Melanie. It was a pleasure. And thank you, everybody, for tuning again to another edition of Find Your Finish Line. As I said earlier, I hope you're having a great summer out there. What I didn't mention is to stay safe out there on the roads, okay? All you riders and triathletes and bike riders, stay safe out there on the road. So until next time, take care of yourself, take care of one another, and my warmest aloha.